Hello and welcome to Catamount Community Connection, your weekly public affairs program here on Catamount Radio. I'm Brian Collamore and I host the show each and every week, and we call it Catamount Connection because we like to talk to business, professional, nonprofit, and political leaders in the community. Last week we had a chance to chat with our state's attorney, Ian Sullivan, and also Tim Leaders-Dumont, who is in charge of all the state's attorneys in the state of Vermont. And today we are happy to welcome in the president of the Board of Aldermen in the city of Rutland, Dave Allaire, and also the planning director and zoning coordinator for the city of Rutland, Ed Bove. Both have been on the show before. Dave most recently, probably, a month ago, and it's been a few years for Ed. But anyway, we'll get into who they are and what they're here for in just a second. I do want to mention the show is brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And yes, folks, we are days away from the 179th Vermont State Fair here in Rutland. This coming Tuesday, it begins, and we'll run through Saturday the 16th. You can go to ParamountVT.org and get tickets for admission, and also the concert by Oliver Anthony, which is coming up on Saturday the 16th as they wrap things up. So our thanks again to the Rutland County Agricultural Society for their sponsorship. So welcome in to both Dave Allaire and Ed Bove, both of whom I've known for quite a while, and welcome in. We're going to talk about TIFs today. We did have Lyle Jepson, who is the executive director of CEDAR, which is the Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland region, and he and Crispin White explained a little bit about what TIFs are. We've also had the mayor on, and Mike Dunches also kind of touched upon what that is, but I thought it might be interesting for people that don't normally tune in every week or did tune in back then but aren't as familiar with TIF, exactly what that is, what it's for, and why, in the opinion of most people I know, it is a very valuable economic tool for development. It stands for tax increment financing. And I don't know who wants to grab the football and run down the field first. It looks like Dave will, because you got a little history about this too, right?
I do, and thanks for inviting us in to talk a little bit about something that's real exciting here for the city of Rutland. I'm going to let Ed get into the finer details of the project and the timelines and that sort of thing. But, TIF does have quite a history here in the state of Vermont. I can even remember 20 years ago when I was serving in the legislature. My last 2 years was in House Ways and Means, and we touched on tax increment financing back then. It was in its early days, and not too many people understood exactly what it meant or, whether or not it would even be successful. But it is certainly proven that it has, and a shining example is the city of St. Albans. Anyone who has ventured up there recently can see all the new development that's happened downtown, especially if you'd been there, say 10, 15, 20 years ago. The change from then to now is just incredible. And they've used this tool to really for a successful outcome up there. And that's what we want to do down here in Rutland. We want to, not just upgrade, but transform our downtown first, but wherever else that development might happen here in the city of Rutland. So the whole idea of tax increment financing is that you do development. The community does the development alongside a private developer, and the increase in the taxes and the increment pays for the money that you would go out and bond for. And in this case, all the pieces have been set. And the groundwork's been laid over the last year and a half through a lot of hard work of a couple of committees and initially my administration, but now under Mike Dunges, and we're ready to go out to bond this fall, and it's coming up quick. It's going to be at the beginning of beginning of October, and we're almost, well, when this airs, it's going to be August.
Middle of August, yeah.
Yeah, so it's only 2 months away. And we want to make sure people understand when they go and vote. Obviously, we want them to vote yes, but we want them to understand exactly what they're voting for. And this is not going to be money out of their pockets. This is going to be an investment in the future of the city of Rutland, and in particular downtown. So I'm excited. With the initial conversation I had with the Beldens a couple of years ago when I was still in office, it just, I said, boy, there's somebody out there, a private developer that's willing to take the chance. And, there is, some risk, like anything else. Any developer will tell you there is a certain amount of risk in anything you do. But I think the risk is pretty low with this. And I'm real excited to move this ahead.
Yeah, as I understand it, and Ed, feel free to weigh in too, it is designed as an economic tool, and it was kind of like a there but for situation where you're talking about millions of dollars here, and rather than just do the bond and have people pay back through property taxes, the developer, in essence, is putting it up front in some ways, and the property taxes are sort of held in reserve until the project is developed and done, and then it's sort of paid back. Is that a kind of a fair description of it? In other words, it's so big that it wouldn't normally have happened except for this process that's called the tax increment financing.
Right. It's the but for doing the municipal investment, the
Right.
development would not occur.
Yeah.
So in this case, the but for is really, there's a couple components. There's the underground utilities, so that's the sewer, the water, the stormwater, and the streetscape. And the but for is without those improvements, particularly water on Wales Street and other pipes on Center Street that date from the 1800s, though that infrastructure could not support more development in downtown Rutland. So a new hotel that's being proposed could not operate with the existing sewer, water, stormwater situation. So the but for is we need to upgrade that infrastructure, which will benefit not only the hotel but every property, in downtown. That's what's the catalyst for development. So in this case, like you mentioned, the increase in property values that come from that development, and a percentage of that is actually returned to the general fund, but a percentage is retained, and it's that retention which goes into the TIF fund, which then goes towards other projects, other TIF projects we can do in the district. So that's how the infrastructure, the bond is paid back, is through the increment. It's not through taxes or anything like that. It's through the new taxes that are created, which pays it back.
In this past session in the legislature, we added another sort of TIF, if you will. Back when Dave Allaire was talking about it, there was just TIFs, and they were intended for large municipal projects, like Dave mentioned in St. Albans, which is a great example of one that absolutely worked pretty well. But there were also project-based or mini TIFs that were not at the same level as the original TIFs. And the legislature, like it or not, put a limit on how many TIFs there could be. I think there was a county limit and also an overall limit for the state. I don't remember what the number was, but Rutland was at one point unable to do that because Killington had already applied for and received permission from VEPSI to go ahead. And there's like another, add about 2 more zeros to their situation up there. It's huge. But the CHIPS bill, so-called, was what we passed this year. And that is going to allow, as Dave Allaire mentioned, communities that have smaller type, really focused projects in mind to be able to exercise this same level of taxing increment financing. And so it's going to be pretty interesting to see how many people line up with their hands raised and we're interested kind of thing. But I know it's going to, as is true whenever there's development, it's going to cause a little bit of inconvenience for people. I'll just put it that way. There's no way around that. If you're going to dig up Center Street and put all the new infrastructure in And we'll have people on, I think, at a later date that will talk specifically about the businesses that will be impacted by that and what the plans are for, helping them along with that process. But there will be some interruption. I mean, there's no other way to do it. And I think it was the mayor that we talked to. Maybe it was Lyle Jepson. The decision, I don't think it's been made yet. Maybe it has. Whether to do the whole thing at once, basically just shut everything down for however long that takes, or whether you do a little bit and then still allow, traffic to come in and out and then keep going, sort of like take a piece of the street and do it. And I don't know what the best answer is for that either. I have no idea.
Well, I'm not sure if the decision's been made exactly about that, but I think ideally the construction and the interruption would be minimal as to allow the businesses to still operate.
Okay.
I don't foresee anything that would just shut everything down, because I think that's just detrimental to what we're trying to accomplish. So, I don't think that we wanted to go there. So,
but there'll be parking spots that won't be available.
There's some parking spots that won't be available. That's already been out there in the press, and that will create a little bit of hardship. But I think it's minimal, and the long-term gain for the short-term pain is really you got to keep your eye on that ball.
Yeah.
And I think talking to people downtown, I think they're excited about it. They're making plans themselves. What's it going to be like once that hotel is open? What's it going to be like, when the Paramount finishes their renovation? That's a multi-million-dollar project there. It's going to be tremendous. And the people that are going into that theater already it makes all the difference in the world downtown. So, we got a new restaurant that just opened on Whale Street. There's other folks that are looking at the upper floors. I think there's a lot of potential. And I think I read somewhere not too long ago that Ed had mentioned that the downtown has never really lived up to its full potential. And, maybe that's true. And I've been here all my life, and it's gone through a lot of changes over the years. But this next 5 to 10 year span is something that people should be excited about. Give people a reason to come to Rutland and stay and raise their families here.
From what I understand, also, and you mentioned the Belden family, they are on the hook for the first part of this. As I understand it, there is some mitigation that has to take place with what was in place. We affectionately call it the pit. So what was there has to be dug out, and the soils that are impacted, I guess with dry cleaning stuff at one point, right? They have to be literally trucked to the Midwest somewhere where they can fix the problem somehow. And then a cement pad is poured, and that will be sort of the base of this brand new hotel. And as I understand it, the Beldens are footing the bill. I mean, they're paying for that as a kind of a sign of good faith. And, where would we be without the Beldens, really?
Yeah, and that's around a $5 million remediation cost. So we're hoping that starts to happen this fall. And then next spring, once the pad is created, the construction of the hotel can go on top of that. And with that construction, there are groups that are meeting with the business owners, the Downtown Rutland Partnership, Cedar. They're having meetings every other week with how to mitigate some of those construction impacts. And there's different things like timing the construction schedule, maybe creating incentives for people to come downtown during construction, if you will. Lyle probably said this, celebrating the dirt.
I think we did mention that.
Yeah, of getting people to come down, because it is going to be one summer. We're trying to make it all happen in 1 year.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
And everything that comes out, construction schedules, Beldens will be notifying DPW, Cedar, the DRP. All that's going to live on the Rutland Redevelopment Authority webpage. So anything TIF related, anything related to the project, that will all be there so people can understand what's happening and when that's happening.
Okay. And it's both Center Street and Whale Street, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's two streets that we'll be looking at to, basically improve, as you pointed out, Ed, and we're talking, by the way, with Ed Bove, who is the planning director and the coordinator for zoning in the city, and Dave Allaire, who's the president of the Board of Aldermen in the city of Rutland. And we're talking about this TIF project that we've waited a long time for. Dave mentioned he's been here all his life. I came in the 60s, so I can recall, the ups and the downs of the downtown area, where we had full vacancy or pretty darn close to it for a while. And then the economy would go the other way, and all of a sudden you'd see empty storefronts again, and then it would come back again. And I think I've seen 3 full cycles of that. But in 1972, or maybe it was 72, I guess, was when the Berwick burned, right?
It was 73.
73.
January 73.
Okay. I was here. I just couldn't remember the exact date, because I can remember standing at what was Hewitt Jewelers, which was next to the movies, with my phone doing a report on the radio, and it was so cold that night. Mm-hmm. So I do remember that. So it's been 50 years. We've been waiting for 50 years for something to happen in that space, and it got to a point where we thought we were there, and then we went back. So this finally looks like it really is going to happen. And Ed mentioned the pipes that are under there. I don't think they're wooden. Rutland did have wooden pipes, by the way, in some areas years and years ago. But these are just old, and they need to be replaced. Even if this wasn't going to happen, it probably, there's breakdowns all the time, right?
Right. And so through the TIF program, we're able to utilize the financing from that and then build on it. So it wouldn't, like you said earlier, we wouldn't have to bond, which would then come out of people's taxes.
Right.
This is something that's generated from the new development. And it's not just the hotel site. There are other sites in our TIF district, which was approved earlier in the summer, that have redevelopment potential. So, for example, along Evelyn Street's another one of our sites. There's some sites on Pine Street. The Redemption Center at the corner of US 7 and 4 is another TIF site.
Okay, I didn't know about that one.
So there's other sites in the district that, after the hotel, we could line those up for future development, which, again, the more development that's created, the more tax increment that's created, which pays back the bond.
Yeah. I think that one is exciting. I know we probably don't want to necessarily spend a lot of time talking about that one. And it's not as old as the Berwick burning, 50 years. But I can remember when that was a gas station and it was open, and Neba roast beef was like next door to it, and then Carvel ice cream.
Yes.
And so, here we are, 3 old guys talking about, Ed's not that old, but Dave and I are.
Yeah, darn right.
And proud of it. And so, and then all of a sudden it was closed, and there was sort of a pharmacy war that was going on at one time, and I don't know. Anyway, one bought the other one so they could block them from coming in, and that's been I don't want to say it's an eyesore, but I think, it probably is to most people's way of thinking. They use it to park construction vehicles when they're doing work, but it really doesn't help the economy. I'm sure taxes are being paid on it, but beyond that, so whatever goes in there, that would be great. I don't know what might be happening, but
yeah, and it's one of the busiest intersections in the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
So.
At one point, traffic-wise, I think it was second or third in the whole state. So
it needs to be redeveloped.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so we've kind of explained TIF, how it works, the fact that there are large TIF projects, and as we say, the mini ones or the project-based or the CHIPS ones. We explained, I think, how it works. And I want to talk a little bit about the hotel. And then Alderman Allaire also referenced, I call it the Richardson building, but it's part of the Paramount now. And that is a separate project that has its own funding, as I understand it. It's not part of this particular project, but it's going to work in concert with it. And I know from talking to Eric Millette at the Paramount, there have been acts which they have wanted to bring in to the Paramount that would require overnight stays. And at the moment, it's not easy to do that. So they have gone on and bought that building and are remodeling it as well. And I mean, when you think about, and I don't know how long this, usually a TIF project's 10 years, maybe something like that. So in 10 years, I mean, the downtown's going to look completely different. You're going to have a 4-story hotel, which is where the pit is. And I don't know about the exterior of the other side of Center Street, but I know the interior will be a lot different than it is now. And I can remember here, speaking of memories, I can remember when that was the Bottle Club way back when.
You're dating yourself, Brian.
And it used to be fun to wind up there at night sometimes. Anyway, so the hotel, we're going to have both, overnight stay in what would normally be considered a hotel. You go in, you rent the room for the night, and then you leave. But there are also going to be apartments for rent. I don't remember the number, 16, 18, 20, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
25.
Oh, 25. Okay. And I know there are companies like Casella, like the hospital, like so many of our large companies that are always looking for places for their employees to live. So those, I'm sure, will be gobbled up pretty quickly. And then, as I understand it, that on the top of it, there'll be a restaurant and bar kind of set up. And wow, I mean, what a view that'll be. You're probably going to be able to see the mountains on one side and the rest of downtown on the other. So that's going to dramatically change things, I think, for all of us here in the city.
And that's where the Rutland 360 comes from. If you see that logo on some of the TIF documents, it's when you're on top of the hotel and the rooftop bar and you're getting a full view of the region. Okay. So construction will be happening. As Ed Bove mentioned, some of that will be this fall. Are we going to see some of it start in the fall? Some of the remediation should be starting this fall.
Okay. But that will really pretty much just involve the pit area, not the rest of it. Okay. And they'll, I'm sure, have to bring in, I mean, people aren't going to have pick and shovels and manually dig it out. They're going to have to bring in some pretty big time equipment to do that. And then the following summer might be when we begin to tackle the infrastructure?
Yes, the spring of...
Spring? Okay.
Spring of 2026, if we have a successful bond vote on October 7th.
All right, well, we'll talk about that. We need to take our first break here on Catamount Community Connection. And again, we're talking with Dave Allaire, who is the president of the Rutland City Board of Aldermen, and Ed Bove, who is a longtime friend of mine. I can remember him doing a lot of other jobs, redevelopment authority, all kinds of other stuff, right? And he's now the planning director and the zoning coordinator for the city of Rutland. And we will be back with more of Catamount Community Connection in just a minute. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs show. I'm Brian Collamore, hosting the show, brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair at Rutland since 1846. And folks, it's 2 days away. This coming Tuesday is the 179th Vermont State Fair, and it runs all next week, Tuesday through Saturday. You can get tickets at ParamountVT.org for all of the admission and the special concert, which is coming up with Oliver Anthony on Saturday, the 16th. And again, we are talking today with Dave Allaire, president of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Rutland, former mayor, and Ed Bove, who is the planning director and zoning coordinator for the City of Rutland. And Ed's had a lot of different hats through the years, and when we took our break, we were going to talk about this vote that's going to happen. So the TIF project for the downtown area and the Killington project, which are two separate, if you will, big TIFs, because we have a county limit of 2 per county. So sorry if anybody's listening that has an idea for another one, but right now that's it. But there are plenty of opportunities for this CHIPS one, which is the smaller kind of project-based. We're going to put a housing unit up here, that kind of thing, rather than a whole giant municipal effort. Those are still available. And so we're hoping that towns like Fairhaven, we were over there for a bill signing for the CHIPS, And the old racetrack is going to be repurposed, we believe, into some housing. And that is a good example, I think, of what could be done with a CHIPS bill, or a CHIPS event, if you will, kind of the smaller TIFs. But when is the vote? How does the vote happen? And it won't come town meeting then. It'll be its own vote?
Yeah, so it's a special election. It's going to be held the first Tuesday, I believe, in October. It's going to be by Australian ballot, so it'll be, the 4 polling places will be open. It'll be warned in the Rutland Herald. Certainly be talked about at the Board of Aldermen meeting. We want people to be engaged, and that's another area that people can get their information, is to just to tune in on Monday nights, the first and third Monday at 7:00, and listen to the discussion at the Board of Aldermen, because as we approach that bond date, there'll be more and more interaction with the board, and the mayor will be talking about it. And we want people to not only be engaged, but get excited about it, and when they go to the polls, be educated to know exactly what they're voting for and what they're not voting for. And they're not voting to raise their taxes. They're voting to, invest in the future of the city of Rutland. And that's what this is. This is a major investment. It's a job creator. It's been proven elsewhere in the state of Vermont, and 9 times out of 10 it's successful. And we see it right up there in Killington, and if they can do it up there, we certainly can down here in the city.
So it's city voters only,
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And October 4th. And as you point out, I don't know of one TIF that has not been successful through the years. It's and this one was very carefully thought out, as was Killington's, as was St. Albans, and so it would defy logic to see that it didn't work. I don't understand how it couldn't.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that a little bit, it does go back to, I've been out of office from the mayor, 2.5 years now, and we were talking about this back then. So. During my last 6 months, and then when Mayor Dunn just took over, we were all in support of this. A lot of groundwork had to be laid, and a lot of planning in order to get to the point where we are today. And it's my hat's off to the people who have done that groundwork. And the board, the present board, previous Board of Aldermen's, RRA, Cedar, everybody is, contributed to getting this to this point. So, and of course the Beldens, without them, we might not be here. But, it is exciting. And you mentioned, it's been 50 some odd years, since the Berwick burned, and that's a long time for that vacant space to be empty. And there's been some efforts, but it's always fallen short. But this one's not going to. This one's going to be successful. Yeah,
it was a pretty expensive place to park. Now, I don't mean that you got charged a lot to park, but the value of that land to just sort of make it a parking lot never made any sense to me. And we had some Friday Night Live performances, rock or music acts that would go down there, but again, it's worth a lot. It's worth a lot of money. The value of that property is amazing, and it's only going to be, doubled, tripled, quadrupled by the time that hotel goes up. And I know they've already talked, the Beldens, with a particular group. He told me at one time what the group was. It's not like Hilton or something, but
Cambria.
Oh, okay. So you're smarter than the average bear, Ed. Cambria. So they've got an idea of what they want in terms of accommodations too, and hopefully it'll work for people that come into the city. When Lyle and I were talking about it, and also the mayor, we talked about skiers coming up. They could take the train, get off at the Amtrak station, and walk over to the hotel, and then stay there if they like, or grab a Uber or the bus and head up to ski. And they can't do that right now. They don't have that ability to stay in the downtown area. And again, the Axe at the Paramount, another great example of people that will be coming in. And hopefully the restaurant does well with local people, And it all seems to have come together at a really good time for the city and the county. I mean, let's not shortchange our immediate towns that outlie the city. It's going to be good for everybody, I think. So hopefully people will have the right information when they go into the polling place on October 4th to vote, and to know that they are not voting to increase their property taxes. They're voting, as Dave said, to invest in the downtown area and the area in general, the county, as we use this tax increment financing tool to move things forward. Okay, anything else on TIFs, or do we want to move on to other topics that you might be talking about?
Well, I think we've explained the history and talked about the vote and talked about what it's going to bring to the city of Rutland and in particular downtown. But we don't always want to concentrate on the downtown too, because this is going to be good for the whole city. I know sometimes the people on the on our gateways feel as though there's so much emphasis put on the downtown, but I think this is going to be a positive for all of us, because it's going to bring more people into the community. They're going to spend their money at those various businesses around town and not just in the downtown. So, that's kind of the message I'd like to send. This is something that's good for all of us.
Yeah,
and the increased investment should lead to more development, and like you mentioned, that parking lot was not generating a lot of tax revenue per acre for the city.
No.
So with this new infrastructure, not just a hotel, but some of those upper floors could become housing. Some of those properties could redevelopment. So it's actually going to grow the base, which should help everyone in the city in their taxes. So in many ways, it could actually lower taxes because you're having more tax revenue per acre, more density in that one area.
Yeah, and just to build on that, we just got done setting the tax rate here in the city, and we had a small decrease in our grand list, which didn't help when you had to go set the tax rate. Actually, I'm thankful that the education property taxes kind of stayed stable or lowered a little bit. But building up the grand list is huge, and that really helps the bottom line for people, because I know people are struggling out there. It's a struggle in this area of the state. Always has been, but this is going to help. This is going to help big time.
I was thrilled, because I'm a Rutland town resident, to see that my property taxes were going to decrease by almost 8%, 7.9%, I think. And again, the bill that was passed in the twilight of the session does not affect next year's property tax rate. It has nothing to do with it. Those measures don't take effect until fiscal 29, so July of 28. So what we did was, what the legislature did, but I did vote for it, was buy down the property tax rate using excess funds from the Ed Fund. We spent about $111 million to buy it down to the point where, on average, there was a 1% increase in the Ed bill and the property taxes for the education. Some were a little bit higher, some were a little bit lower, but on average it was 1%. But that's just for next year. There's the year after that, before that bill takes effect, that we still have to figure a way to find some money or else it's going to go up again. And what we're hoping for in the end, when this task force commits to what the district maps are going to look like, how many of them there'll be, how many students will be in a classroom, how many students will be in a district, if it all comes to be, the property taxes should continue to go down each year if everything else is equal. So that's all I wanted to say about that. But I was happy that at least my town went down a little bit. And I think actually most Rutland County towns had a little bit of a decrease in their property taxes this coming year. But it came at a cost, because we used one-time money to buy it down. And you can't do that every year. So we'll have to see what happens. How about some other events that might be coming up? This is going to air on August 10th, and I'm thinking National Night Out will probably already have happened by then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can't kind of promote that. We can talk about the Whoopie Pie Festival, because I know that's in September. But are there any other events that you know of, Dave, that is coming up in the city? I know we have the band concerts on Wednesdays and Sundays, right?
Yeah, those are winding down too. Well, you mentioned as your main sponsor here, the Rutland County Agricultural Society, and I just soon give them a little plug. I have joined their board as a director, and will work down there and do a little volunteering during the fair. And the last few years I've really seen an uptick in the amount of people that have been coming. The grounds are clean. The acts have been superb. I think Oliver Anthony is going to be a terrific show. Ticket sales are way up, in comparison to the last couple of years for that event. And, we're really looking forward to a successful 4 or 5 day run for the fair, which again is an event that helps us all here in the not just the city of Rutland, but in this whole Rutland County area. You get 40,000 people coming into the city for an event like that. That's a tremendous boon. So my hat's off to Robert Congdon, who you've had on several times, and the job he's done down there. And, we in the city are doing all we can to support their efforts. And, years past, there was always a little bit of tension between the city and the fair, but not anymore. We're working in concert, and we're hoping for a successful event for them, which is coming up, in the next few days.
Yeah, Tuesday it starts. So, we talked, Robert Congdon and I did talk about, life's all about timing sometimes. And if you have booked an act to come to Rutland to perform at the fair, and just a little bit before that, a big hit happens and it blows up nationwide, ticket sales go right through the roof. There have been other years when you were pretty sure that you booked the right person and then nothing happened.
Right.
But this one looks, because I think he's just landed a huge, I don't want to say a number one hit. Maybe they don't even make number ones anymore. But it's been doing very well, and I know Robert was tickled that we got him.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to see him perform at the Vermont State Fair. The other thing I'll mention, I guarantee when you go down to the fair, I'm not saying if you go, I'm saying when. You will see someone that you haven't seen since the last time you were at the fair. It just happens that way. I don't know why it is, but there are people that literally come to the fair and then you just don't see them again the rest of the year. So, I'm hoping for some really, really good weather and some great attendance for our 5-day Vermont State Fair for sure.
So I was just thinking about events that would be coming up. And, the Downtown Rutland Partnership has put on 3 or 2 Friday Night Lives, and then there's a third event this year, and it's more going back to the days when we had sidewalk sales. And it's going to be on a Saturday, and I don't have the date right in front of me. It's coming up in the middle part of August, I believe, and it's going to happen on a Saturday in concert with the farmers market. It'll be happening at the same time. So I think that's something that people can look forward to. I know I always hear, why don't we have sidewalk sales anymore? Well, you got to have the business people want to do that, and there's a lot of planning that goes into that sort of thing. But they've put together a plan, and I think it's going to be hopefully the weather will cooperate, and it'll be a good day to get the business people out there in front of folks, and maybe folks who don't usually go to some of these businesses downtown will get a taste of what it's like. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I know I'm going to have Lyle Jepson and Crispin White in from Cedar a couple of weeks away from now, and we will be talking in more detail about the Whoopie Pie Festival. But that's another event. It's September. I think it's the 14th, but I know it's in September. Mm-hmm. So this won't. We can promote it on this show, and we set the world record. Maine had it for a while, but we did it last year. We had the largest whoopie pie in America, and we had a ton of people. 5,000 people came downtown. We're not going to try to break the record. this year. But it's going to be very well done again. The street will be blocked off, and they put that grass kind of stuff on. I want to say fake grass, but I'm sure there's a better name for it. Turf, yes. And people will come down. It's a great family-friendly event, too. And bring the kids and enjoy that in September. But again, Lyle and I and Crispin will be back on in a future Catamount Connection show to tell you more about that. What about at Bove? Yeah, go ahead.
And there will be TIFF information at all these events.
Oh, good.
Friday Night Live, at the sidewalk sales, at the Whoopie Pie Fest. There will be information, handouts on TIFF, on the TIFF bond vote on October 7th. Lots of info about that in the hotel.
Okay. Yeah, and I know there was an op-ed piece in the Rutland Herald that Lyle wrote that explained TIFFs, because there were a couple of letters to the editor that said, I don't understand what this thing's all about. I'm a little suspicious. And I think there's people that are conservatively leaning that might sort of say, well, I'm not sure about that. But if you explain what it is, I think most people will say, okay, well, that makes sense. I'm not voting to increase my taxes. I'm voting to make an investment in the city and the area, the county, and it's all going to be coming out of the development itself. I don't see why people wouldn't want to do that. What other things do you do, since we have probably about 15 minutes left, in your office? What does the planning director do in the city of Rutland?
Well, right now, or 2 nights ago, we had a Charter and Ordinance Committee meeting on the new draft zoning.
Oh.
Which to me is very exciting. Probably not so much to everyone else, but it's a great document. It builds on what we have now, and it's development friendly. So we're trying to keep development happening in the city. We're incorporating some of the new state regulations regarding housing that have come in, subdivision, special flood hazard areas. We have all that in there, but it opens the door and keeps things moving. It's user-friendly for the public, for staff. And again, Rutland's always had a good document that never was too technical and too overly regulatory, and we've kept it that way. So for the hotel to come in, for people looking to develop mixed use or housing, we've kept it that way. So it says that Rutland is open for business. We want development. At the same time, having safeguards so that development is good development, and at the end of the day is financially productive to the city and resilient. So that's the big thing coming out of the Planning and Zoning Office, and there will be a public hearing at the Board of Aldermen on August 18th. So if there's any comments about the document, you can show up at that, and the document is also online on the city's website.
And is this in alignment with Devin Neary's project of the town or the city plan, the one they have to do every 10 years or so?
So that's the regional plan.
Okay.
But yes, the city's piece of that is in alignment with their regional plan, which includes a future land use map, which sets our designations. So our downtown designation, and we used to have a neighborhood development area. That's changing now that the designations are changing. So we will still have a designated downtown, and we will have a growth area, it's called. And the beauty of that, and it's the next thing I was going to mention, is that we will be applying for an Act 250 Tier 1A exemption in January, meaning that most of the city could be exempt from Act 250 permitting, which is right now, it's useful, but it is a barrier to development. So all of that Act 250 permitting would go away, and it would all go through the Planning and Zoning Office.
Okay.
So it's a one-stop permitting, should be helpful, very helpful to developers because of time and money that they don't have to spend on an Act 250 permit. So that's really exciting. That's going to happen as well.
Yeah, and I don't take credit for it, but it certainly came out of the legislature and long overdue in my view. Act 250 was back in 71, I think, 72 maybe. And it was in response to some of the ski areas further down south, not Killington, not Pico, but they literally were just throwing stuff out the windows and letting it go right into the streams and bad stuff. So that's why when Governor Dean Davis was in office, and he was a Republican, that's when Act 250 was passed and signed into law. And it has morphed over the years, again, one man's opinion, into something that is just mammothly hard to understand and negotiate. And it has caused many a project that would have taken place in Rutland to leave and go somewhere else because it's too costly. It's not timely. It's not predictable. If you're a developer, all those barriers are in the way. And so Tier 1 designation is great. I know there will be other designations in other parts of the state. And you're right. Some of it needs to be done. You don't want to take the Northeast Kingdom and just cut every tree down and put hotels and motels up. But at the same time, a little bit of reasonable development is always a good idea, I think. So.
Well, I'll just add that it has Act 250 has been a detriment to growth here in our area over the years. And again, I go back to my time in the legislature. We were talking about reforming Act 250 back then, and it's the time has come to move things forward. I think the changes that were made this last year were all beneficial. This activity that we're taking on to move the city toward a Tier 1 is going to be beneficial for us. And so it's good to have the legislature in sync with what the needs are of the local people. And, I think it's going to help us all.
Yeah. Okay, we need to take our second break, guys, and we'll be back here in just a second. We're talking with Dave Allaire, the president of the Rutland City Board of Aldermen, and Ed Bove, the planning director and zoning coordinator for the city of Rutland. And we will be back here on Catamount Community Connection in just a minute. Welcome back to Catamount Community Connection, our weekly public affairs program here on Catamount Radio. And each week we talk with business leaders, professionals, nonprofits, political arenas. Today we are talking with Ed Bove he's the planning director and the zoning coordinator for the city of Rutland, and also the Rutland City Board of Aldermen president, Dave Allaire, former mayor. Our show brought to you by the Rutland County Agricultural Society, which has brought you the Vermont State Fair since 1846. And again, the 179th Fair is 2 days away, folks. This coming Tuesday will begin the 179th Fair, and it will run all the way until Saturday of this week. So please get your tickets. You could certainly purchase them when you get there, but it's a lot easier to get them ahead of time. ParamountVT.org, and you can go online and just use your credit card, and you'll be all set and ready for all the rides that'll be there, all the events, the Oliver Anthony concert on Saturday. It's all there at the Vermont State Fair this year. We've been talking about the TIF districts, and we want to mention again the vote, which is coming up. It's very important for people to understand, and there'll be lots of information at all these outdoor events. And if people don't understand what the TIF district means, they need to get a hold of either Ed or someone from Cedar to explain it, because what you're going to vote for, city residents only, on October 7th, is not a bond. It's not raising taxes on your property. It is an investment that will be taken care of by development money, in essence, to put this huge project up. So I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in there, but please get out and vote. That's the first thing. I can't tell you how to vote. That's your business. But it'd be awful if only 10% of the people turned out to vote. We need a real show of support for this, I think.
Yeah, it would be great to have a big turnout for the special election. I think you mentioned, this is an investment in the future of the city of Rutland, short term and long term. October 7th is the date. As far as getting information to people, all these upcoming events, there's going to be a table set up in literature there talking about the TIF. But there's also, I've noticed in the Rutland Herald once a week, and also in the weekly Mountain Times, there's an article that explains, a different aspect of the TIF, and each week it touches on that. So I've been reading those, and it's actually been helpful for me for some of the stuff that I thought I knew, but maybe I didn't understand quite so well. But this is all, a positive. I'll go through a couple of the bullet points. This is a boom for the local economy. We're not going to have to look at the pit anymore because that hotel is going to be there in the next couple of years. These are improvements to our infrastructure downtown, which were going to be needed no matter what. But this is going to be done without raising your property taxes. It's going to be safer streets. It's going to be an aesthetic update, and it's going to build the long-term tax base, which is going to help our grand list, which will help our property taxes, keep them stable. So those are all positives for the city of Rutland. One thing we haven't mentioned up to this point, and I'm going to turn this over to Ed, is we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to receive a pretty substantial grant in the range of $3 million from the Northern Borders group to provide a base for this project going forward. So Ed was kind of behind getting that going, and I'll let him describe it and explain to it a little bit better.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, it was a $3 million award from Northern Borders Regional Commission that really is just going into the pot. So we have that as a great base. The bond vote is going to be about $3.9 million. Again on October 7th, and that would go on top of the $3 million. We have a couple other funding sources that we feel very strongly we are going to get through so that there is not going to be any gap in the funding source. So again, when the bond passes on October 7th, we can turn around and next spring look to see construction starting on the hotel. Noting that, again, this fall we'll probably see activity on the property itself as the brownfields is being remediated. So we've got our sources lining up. We have a great partner, a great development agreement between the city and the private developers, and we're very excited that it's moving the way it is. So again, hoping for October 7th, everyone shows up. We have a great turnout, and we'll be seeing a new Center Street with new development starting now and hopefully continuing for decades.
Yeah, and just if I could add to that, I'll state this more from as president of the Board of Aldermen. We have a very diverse board currently, and we have liberals, conservatives, middle of the road. People a little bit older, a little bit younger. A wide range, and to a T, that the board is supportive unanimously of this project going forward. They see the benefit, and I think that's really a terrific message to send to our taxpayers, that your local representatives that you put in place to make these decisions are all on board, are all supporting this and supporting it 100%. So again, a big turnout on October 7th would be tremendous. Get a wide variety of people to the polls and get them to hopefully vote yes on this investment for the future of Rutland.
That's a good point, too. We oftentimes see the national situation not quite as clear or clearly. When you get a one margin vote in the Senate, the United States Senate, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody's jumping up and down and happy about what that just happened. And I don't mean that in any specific bill or anything like that. But if you get a unanimous vote locally in a Board of Aldermen vote, that, there's people with very diverse views on both sides of whatever question it was. If they're all convinced that this is a good idea, it's got to be a pretty good idea. So, yeah, get out on October 7th and vote yes for the TIF district, and that's my 2 cents.
And all the information can be found on the Rutland Redevelopment Authority website.
Okay. And we were going to mention one or two other events. We've got about a minute and a half left. I know we mentioned the Whoopie Pie Festival, and I'm sure there are other events I'm not thinking about. But
Well, a little bit further down the road, but always a marquee event for the city of Rutland is the Halloween parade.
oh yeah,
And, the Recreation Department has already been meeting and planning, as they do almost all year round. But it's really, they're getting right on board and getting things lined up because it'll come fast now. We're into August when this airs, and in a couple of months we'll be looking at Halloween and the Halloween parade. It's a tremendous event for the city of Rutland, and we want people to come out and enjoy themselves. Hopefully, the weather will cooperate, and it'll be another successful event for the city of Rutland. Unique, I think, in the country. Not too many folks, I think, have Halloween parades.
No.
Certainly not at the scale that we have. So,
and it was written up with Tom
Fagan.
in the Marvel comic books. That's how we kind of got on the. I think it was Marvel. We got kind of on the national scene, and upwards of 10,000 people come to that parade every year. And I've been there when I was in it, and then I've also been just watching it, and all kinds of different weather. It's rained some years, it's snowed a few years, and it's been really nice weather other years. So, as Dave mentioned, hopefully it is going to be a very good night. Perfect would be like 55, 60 degrees if it could be like that. But October is a little bit funny to predict. So, okay, we've run out of time for this show. But again, I want to thank my guests, Dave Allaire, President of the Rutland City Board of Aldermen, and Ed Bove, the Planning Director and Zoning Coordinator for the City of Rutland. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the TIF, and you're going to get out there and be positive about the vote on October 7th. It's going to mean so much to the area to have that brand new hotel, and across the street on Center Street with the Paramount development as well. So that's it. And we will see all of you next week on Catamount Community Connection.